끝없이 쏟아지는 포토 스팟. 휴대폰 한 대로 감당할 수 있겠니?
Welcome to Arirang live coverage of the Welcome Home Ceremony for South Korean fallen heroes. I'm Yoon Jung-min. Today, the remains of 7 Korean soldiers who died during the Korean War, most of them in North Korean territory, are returning home from Hawaii. What you see on the screen right now is the South Seoul Air Base, Seongnam, just south of Seoul, where the Korean military KC-330 transport aircraft is just landing, carrying the remains of 7 South Korean fallen heroes from the Hickam Air Force Base, Hawaii. The 7 sets of the remains return home from the U.S. DPAA with the highest level of courtesy. Take a look here. Right, and for our special coverage, joining me is Lt General Retired Chun In-bum, who also served as the commander of the ROK Special Forces. Lt General Chun, thank you for your time.
Thank you for the invitation.
So what would you say about the significance of this repatriation of fallen heroes just one day before the 70th anniversary of the signing of the Korean War Armistice?
Yes, I'm really moved to see this event going on, especially at this very special moment. I think the significance of this ceremony is, number one, that it reminds all of us that the freedoms that we enjoy right now, that we take for granted, is actually based on many, many sacrifices.
It's not free.
Yes, and it is definitely not free. So it reminds us of the price that many have paid to allow us to enjoy our freedom. Secondly, I think it leads to each of us to resolve that if ever there is another challenge to our freedom, that we will do our best and sacrifice all that we have to ensure that our descendants will enjoy freedom as well. And finally, I think the meaning of all of this is to show our gratitude to not only the soldiers, but all the people who have made all of this possible.
So it's really dark outside there. You can barely see the airplane landing. So what do you say about this time, this round of return home ceremony?
So it does take time to reach from Hawaii to Seoul.
Yes.
Seongnam Air Base, the K-16, is a very important airfield for the military. It provides much needed military support that is required, and it's close to Seoul. So by landing here, it makes not only gives the returning heroes an honorable return, but it makes all the logistics much better. But because it is a military airfield,
yes,
because of that reason, you can't actually, doesn't have that much lighting for those purposes.
Right, and the remains of the 7 Korean soldiers this time who died during the Korean War, most of them, 3 of them actually in the North Korean territory, are returning home from the United States through the Korean War Identification Project. So what exactly is this project?
So the Republic of Korea has the Ministry of National Defense Agency for Killed in Action Recovery and Identification.
Yes, also known as MOCRI.
MOCRI.
Yes.
And it was established finally established in 2007. The United States has the Department of POW MIA Accounting Agency, DPAA.
Yes.
And it was finally consolidated in 2015. These two agencies cooperate and run the Korean War Identification Project. And what this project does is, from all the remains that is collected by the United States, that is collected by the Republic of Korea, and those remains that are returned from the North Koreans at a price, they are all collected, and once the initial analysis is finished and conducted, and a certain degree of identification is resolved,
국군전사자를 모시고 있는
they
공군
will
특별수송대
let us know and
KC-330이
proceed.
행사장으로 진입하고 있습니다.
Right, what you're seeing on the screen right now is the arrival of the KC-330 transport aircraft carrying the remains of 7 South Korean soldiers who were killed during the Korean War from the Hickam Air Force Base, Hawaii. right, so to give you a brief recap of this historical moment, the 7 sets of remains had been sent to the United States after rounds of excavation works in North Korea and South Korea. They were confirmed to belong to South Korean soldiers after a joint analysis. And in the meantime, Lieutenant General, so it's the 7th time that the remains have been repatriated from the U.S. since 2012. So far, the remains of more than 300 Korean soldiers have returned home. So what stands out to you this time?
I think it's a significant reminder to everyone that the Korea-U.S. alliance is a blood-forged alliance. Our alliance is based on a war that resulted in 37,000 Americans losing their lives and 150,000 South Korean soldiers losing their lives as well. And so that's why we say that this alliance was forged in blood. Many people don't realize that during the first months of the Korean War, approximately 5 months, every day 100 Americans were killed. So if you can imagine that among the 37,000, that during the initial 5 months, that nearly 15,000 of them were killed. Those numbers right now in today's mind is very difficult to comprehend. So it just reminds me that this war, how vicious and terrible it was.
So what we're seeing on the screen right now, how would you describe this moment? So what's the next step of this ceremony process?
So the 7 heroes have made a long journey.
Yes.
We know the identity of one person. He was only 19 years old when he died. His older brother also died during the Korean War, so the family lost 2 people. And in particular, Mr. Han, his remains were returned. It was then had to go through a identification process. It crossed the Pacific Ocean, and then it's crossed the Pacific Ocean again, and now finally coming home. And so I think it's a very moving story in itself.
It truly is. And you just mentioned the late Private First Class Choi Im-nak and his brother, late Staff Sergeant Choi Sang-nak. The 2 brothers were killed in active duty, and the remains of the 2 brothers will now be buried together in their homeland some 70 years after their death. So the crew are entering the KC-330 right now. And Lieutenant General, so what happens after this ceremony? So what's the process in terms of identification work?
So basically, DNA is a very important factor. In order for this to work, we need to collect as much DNA sampling from the families as much as possible so that we can match. Another very important aspect is the conditions or the location of where the remains were found. If there are any items that were found with the remains, such as cigarettes or a name tag would be a very important find. Those things would also be considered. And hopefully, God willing, we'll be able to identify who this person is and lay rest and provide peace.
Is DNA testing and identification work not an easy job?
Yes, the technology is getting better.
Yes.
But again, the important thing is getting the sampling of those families that have missing family members. And that is in itself is not an easy task because it has to be voluntary. And so it's a long process.
Long process, you say. And I wonder, has South Korea also repatriated the remains of U.S. soldiers? And what about UN troops? UN troops also took part in the Korean War, and many of them were sacrificed.
Yes. So today, to this day, about 26 U.S. remains were returned to the United States, and they're going through the same process that our remains will go through. For the other nations, they are being categorized as well, and we have to wait a little bit more to see any sort of details as to what happens.
Yes.
But I think that it's, as you said, it's a good reminder that it's not just the United States, but many other countries that contributed to our freedom.
And how active are the South Korea-U.S. joint excavation or investigation efforts?
Very active. Every year, the Korean Marty organization conducts a very active remains recovery operation.
Right. The ceremony is just about to start, and you are watching the Seoul Air Base, again, where the repatriation ceremony is just about to take place. Take a look here. For just who are tuning in, you are watching Arirang News live coverage of the Welcome Home ceremony for Korean War fallen soldiers, fallen heroes. The ceremony is just about to start, and you are seeing the President Yoon Suk-yeol and Defense Minister Lee Jong-seok
지금 대통령님과 고 최임락 일병님의 유가족, 국방부 장관, 합참 의장, 필립 골드버그 주한미 대사,
Philip Goldberg, the ambassador of U.S. to Korea, and the lieutenants of the Korea and U.S. joint forces are entering. We will now be starting the repatriation ceremony for 7 fallen heroes who are returning. First, to the war veterans and to the remains, we will be having a welcome ceremony.
오늘 귀환하신 전사자는
And as for the war veterans who are returning, including 1, we have 7 fallen heroes in total, and all have sacrificed their lives during the Korean War, and they have all died in the North Korea region. However, 1 fortunately has been identified to be Im-lak Choi, and we have a younger brother who are together with us right now.
And
as for the war veterans, on 6 a.m. today, they have conducted a ceremony for transportation in Hawaii, U.S., and they have been boarded on the KC-3320, the Air Force's jet, to be transported to Korea. And they have been under the courtesy of the 4 jets, and they have passed Ulsan to be arriving in the free land, Korea.
이제 곧 국군전사자께서
Soon,
내려오시겠습니다.
the remains of the war veterans will be onboarding the plane.
전사자 7분은 한미
And the 7 fallen heroes, thanks to the efforts of both US and Korea, have returned to Korea today. And as for Im Rak-choi, after joining the army, he has been placed at the forefront and he has also participated in the Incheon. And unfortunately, he has passed away. And today, his nephew is bringing Mr. Im Rak-choi home. And now, Korea, Freeland, is paying tribute to Im Rak-choi and 6 other fallen heroes. Let us pay salute to the fallen as they onboard the plane.
전사자께 대하여 경례!
Salute the fallen.
바로
At ease.
대통령님과 유가족,
President Yoon
국방부장관께서는
and the
앞으로
bereaved family
나가서
members
전사자를
and the
영접하셨습니다.
Minister of Defense will step forward to receive the fallen.
고 최임락 일병님의 유가족께서는
And the bereaved
앞으로
family
나가시어
members
호국 영웅에게
of
보내는 편지를
Im Rak-choi
읽어주시겠습니다.
will step forward to read the condolence letters.
임낙이 형님,
Older brother Im Nak,
가슴이 벅차.
I am overwhelmed.
긴 세월이
It has been a long
지났지만
time,
지금이라도
but
돌아오셔서
thank you for returning home even as of now.
모질게
You went
고생한
through so many hardships,
나라를
and eventually you joined the army to save the country.
목숨을
The Korea that you have
바쳐주신
sacrificed your life for is now
잘 사는
a free Korea where everyone lives warmly with a full stomach.
지금 형님은
Right now,
해군에
you're in
있는 우리 해군에 보낸
You're
제
right now in
아들을
the arms of my son,
계시는데
who is serving in the Navy. Are you comfortable there?
형님이
Imlak,
이 나라가 걱정을
please don't worry about our country anymore, and please rest in peace in our land.
형님이
I will also
찾아주신
continue
대한민국에
to live in
감사하는
Korea
마음으로
that you have saved with a grateful heart.
2023년 7월 26일
July 26, 2023, younger brother, Choi-yong.
이어서 대통령님께서
Continuing,
앞으로 나가셔
President Yoon will step
고체인락
forward
일병에게 참전기장을
and will
수여하시겠습니다.
present the combat medals to Mr. Yeom-nak Choi.
다음은 전사자에 대한
Next,
묵념을
we will pay
올리겠습니다.
salute and we will have a moment of silence for the fallen. Moment of silence.
바로
At ease.
이어서 전사자 봉송이
Continuing, we will now be transporting the fallen.
전사자께서는 지상 호위를
As
받으며
for the fallen,
국립서울 현충원에
they
있는
have been
유해발굴
carried and
감식장까지
transported through the
이동하시겠습니다.
highest level of courtesy and will be transporting to the National Cemetery.
봉송 차량이
Soon the
출발하겠습니다.
transportation vehicle will be leaving.
영웅들께 대하여 경례.
Let us salute the fallen.
Right, that was the repatriation ceremony of the fallen heroes 73 years after the outbreak of the war. General Chun, it was a very solemn moment, I would say. The fallen heroes came back home with the highest level of courtesy. So what stood out to you?
I'm very moved. I'm very happy to see that the United States and Korea collaborated to do this, and that finally there's some closure to the families. As I was watching the ceremony, I could not stop but wonder and to think, I wonder how he died. It must have been very cold. Did he die immediately? Did he suffer? I think it just reminds us that if you think in the minds of those who did actually sacrifice for us, that their suffering and the suffering of their families is something that we should never forget.
We should never forget. Lieutenant General Retired Chun Yim-bom, we appreciate your time.
Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you. And that wraps up Arirang's special coverage of the repatriation. Thanks for watching.
Welcome. 엄청난 에너지를 춤으로 뿜어내는 나라. 감당할 수 있겠니?